Hello everyone. This is Tribecast 3, episode 19, and my name is Marina. This week I have spent 2 overwhelming days on Arctic15 and had an inspiring evening at Tribe Plus. I have recorded for you 3 absolutely cool interviews with the presenters and speakers of the events. I could have introduced them for you, but instead I'll give the voice to my guests. This is Tribecast 3 Arctic15 special episode, so get your volume set on. And my first guest for this week is amazing Joppe, and basically for now I'm amazed by the time that you arrived for the interview, arrived in time, and had time in between of all this hustle and bustle of the Arctic15 festival. So now it's your turn to amaze me even more by telling the story of your life and background and career path. So please tell a few things about yourself.
Okay, well, hi. So I'm Joppe Quaedvlieg, and I'm currently a networking and communications expert. I have a bit of a weird journey. Actually, by diploma, I'm a social worker, and here in Finland, my diploma isn't valid. So I needed to reinvent myself, and I was trying to find different jobs, but it was very difficult to get hired. And at some point, I came across Arctic startup, actually, and they do events, and I've always had a thing for events. As Dimitri, the CEO, also said this morning at the opening, I think it's very important to figure out your meaning and try and follow that, right? I was thinking about what do I want to do, and I thought something in events, so I came across Arctic Startup, and I just simply saw on the website that they said, if you want to come by for a coffee, do that. Well, because I'm Dutch, I do that. I'm like, let's go. So I went there, and we had a chat, and then I kind of very accidentally ended up in the startup world, which was interesting because it kind of went simultaneously with the discovery of the work that I do right now. So I also got really interested in networking at the same time, and I noticed that, Arctic15 is a networking event, and a lot of people know that they should network, right? And everybody says, go out there and network, but nobody really explains to you, I believe, how does that go, right? How do you actually network? So while I was working at Arctic15 and Arctic Startup, I started doing research on that, and I started collecting stuff. And at some point, I kind of had a package, and I noticed that, one part is kind of the motivation. Yeah? So go out there and network. But another part is there are actual practical steps to take to networking. So I started writing that down, and I made it into a little workshop. And then first, I did that for actually other expats and other immigrants, because a lot of them are looking for work. The startup world is an excellent place for that, especially as a foreigner, because it's super international, actually. So gradually I got asked to do that more and more next to the job I had, to the point where I got asked so much that it became a company. And I also think that, in a way, I have a very unique way looking at the startup world, because Arctic Startup is not a startup, and the work that I don't do is a startup, but everything is intertwined in the networking. So I always got to see the whole startup world as an observer, so to speak, which I think is very, very interesting.
And one of the actually amazing parts of Arctic15 is that we're recording on the premises, so people are just walking around, opening the doors, and actually I find it fun. I guess it's also can be considered a part of networking, that you bump into people on a coffee place, in a queue to the toilet, in a corridor trying to figure out where your next meeting is. Do you think it's actually a good way to start a conversation if you bump into people like this? Or do you think that networking is more about, let's meet in a room and make it a very professional and business-like?
I think it's a personal choice. So there are people who like to have back-to-back meetings, like here in the deal room, which works very, very well for certain people. I'm not the type. If you put me back-to-back in a room to have meetings, I'm going to hate myself. I like to meet people, and the thing is, for me, is before I do business with you, I want to connect with you on a personal level. I want to know if I like you. And I don't do business with people that I don't like, right? By getting to know people first and walking into them, whether it's in a line for coffee or at a demo booth, I think that works very well. And I also think it sets the tone for the rest of the conversation and the rest of the networking. Specifically because you don't know whether somebody will be able to help you straight away in that moment, whether it's funding or a job or selling products, but maybe the next networking event or the next networking event or the next networking event, you meet them again, and then you actually create something. What's interesting to me is this. So me personally, I'm not interested in making money. I like money, but that's not the point. What I'm looking for is how can you create something bigger than I could have done by myself, right? So it becomes a very positive way of networking. It's all about creating something that you could not have done alone.
Do you think that Arctic15 is an example of what people couldn't have done alone, but as a team they can fulfill that?
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot, what makes this different, what makes Arctic15 different, and they manage really well to create atmosphere. How do you make a space, and how do you fill it with people that there's a sense of equality? For instance, to give one example, the people from Arctic15, they don't discriminate between the volunteers and the people that actually attend. So if you're a volunteer, you can also use the deal room. So that means that you also can book meetings. So everybody's on the same foot, and it creates a very happy atmosphere, right? There is no VIP and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I've been thinking about it. What is it exactly, what they do? I haven't figured that out yet, but somehow the collaboration of the people and the volunteers and management, it works really well. And so, yeah, it very adds to the atmosphere and the networking. And you can very clearly see it because after the 2 days, people are really happy and they had lots of meetings and lots of ideas. And it goes beyond funding and selling products. People are like, hey, I actually found my co-founder. Hey, I found an intern. Hey, I found my surf buddy, and so on and so on. To me, that's the beauty of networking. It shouldn't only be about work as a network.
Could you please open up a bit more? What is your workshop about?
Yeah, so my workshops, I have a very hands-on approach. So, well, the first thing, it's an actual workshop. You know, a lot of people call their workshops, but there's no actual work being done. Of course, the workshop that I do here is only 1 hour. The actual workshop is actually a course. So normally it's 5 times 2 hours. The hour is the whole thing, but condensed into 1 hour. What it is about is actually very simple. It is about the idea of how do I express myself in such a way that the other will understand.
That doesn't sound like a simple idea.
Well, yeah.
I got a communication degree, so
okay,
I know
there you go, right?
Yeah.
So I developed kind of like a formula, which is very basic, where you can go through your story in such a way. And then it starts with this to me, right? So the question is, what is it that you have to offer? And then people go like, well, my product. And go like, no, go beyond that. And then they don't know.
Problem solution?
Yeah, so it's like, what do you have to offer? And then people need to make a list of that so that next time when they go to network, they don't have to come up with it on the spot. And then they have to ask themselves the question, well, what is it that I need? And then people go like, I need funding. Like, well, what else do you need? Do you need an intern? Do you need a co-founder? Do you need a programmer? And so on and so on. Now, when you know both, you're not there yet. They're only halfway there. Then the idea is to be able to express yourself in such a way that the other will understand. So that kind of goes like, what's the challenge that you have, right? And what's the outcome? So the formula goes as following. So it's challenge plus your solution plus the outcome. So always devise your story like that. That makes it easier for the other to understand that your product works or that they understand what you're looking for. And a lot of people forget to explain that actually. So they might go like, you might ask them, so what do you do? And you go like, I sell vacuum cleaners. Right? They go, yeah, but you didn't tell me what they actually do. So create a story around it. And I'm always pretty blown away that even people who've been networking for many years and people that are good and social, how difficult they actually find it to, in a proper way, explain themselves so the other will understand.
Right. So do I get it right that you think that networking is more about knowing some techniques than about experiencing it?
Oh, that's such a difficult question. Okay, so thank you for asking that because I don't think that if you follow the steps in my workshop, that will make you good at networking. It's such a complex system. So what I mean is that the steps are there, but you still have to make it your own. And I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it's very, very difficult. That's why the workshop is set in 5 parts. And actually, one of the workshops is the 4th one. We go to an event together and we network on the spot. And I'm there to give you live feedback. So that way people can try out what they have learned, see if it works, and if it doesn't, come to me and say like, hey, I've been saying this, it's not working. And then the last workshop, we reflect on that. That really works very, very well.
Right. That sounds interesting. By the way, if you're on a big event and you see people networking, which is like thing for the big events, and you see someone doing something like really, really, really wrong, do you ever have this feeling like, let me tell you how you should do that?
Yeah, it's a fair question.
It's like, you know, like when I go to the gym sometimes, or when I go skating sometimes I run into an old lady who's like, this is how you shoot. And I'm like, I've been doing it for more than 20 years. I kind of know how I should do that.
You know, it started out because I couldn't help myself anyway. I want to help people if I can. I only will offer the help if they in any way or form ask it. And that often starts with, hey, I'm looking for this. but I can't find anybody. Then I'll very often go like, hey, I have some ideas. It has happened many times before that I start giving a whole workshop of an hour just for one person, because communication is so important, and in general we're not really good at it, and I think everybody deserves to be good at it because everybody has skills and everybody has good products. The products here are amazing. I will every once in a while help somebody out if I can.
I guess we're done for today. Thank you very much for this interview, Joppe. That was really amazing, and I'm pretty sure I have signed for a workshop, so awesome. I will learn how to talk to people.
We'll see you then. Thank you.
And now we'll have two guests simultaneously. Hello, Kirsi. Hello, Harri. Please tell our listeners a few things about yourselves.
Okay, I'm Kirsi Larkiala, running currently the Fintech ecosystem. It's our own company. I'm one of the co-founders. Well, when I was a small girl, I wanted to be a Finnair pilot because my dad has been working for Finnair. What happened actually, one of my family members' sister called me to work as a summer help for the bank. And that's the case. I have been as a banker over 30 years and now last 5 years has been doing things with the fintech side.
My name is Harri and I have been working in the banks and insurance companies also for over 30 years. Currently I'm a sort of a board professional. I'm both investing in startups and sitting in the boards of startups and also trying to help new startups. Especially here in this fintech ecosystem we see that sort of a platform formula, cooperation formula to gather different players around the branch and help them to get into the market. That is our mission.
I know that you are running this fintech track on Arctic15. Maybe we could start from the definition, what is a track, what's the format is about.
Okay, track is a track, meaning that it's important enough topic to have our own specialized track. Actually, this is the second year we are having the fintech track. Usually you have a funding track and blockchain track and artificial intelligence track, but now we have a specially for financial technology focused track. I think it's very, very cool that the topic starts to be so important that we have our own track for that.
And the track is about 2 hours session with different playing modes, would I say so, that there is some keynotes and then panel discussions, and we are with Kirsi moderating it.
Is it difficult for you to moderate the topic? I mean, financial technology, for me this sounds like damn serious stuff.
The pre-work has been quite extensive, to be honest. I mean, to find all the speakers, to combine that, to have a interesting enough and exciting outcome, that has been, of course, one task. And briefing of the different speakers and panelists, of course, which are the topics and headlines and so on. Of course, it has been extensive work, but it has been also fun because you learn a lot when you talk to all around the globe. Then the actual track, well, it's tomorrow, so we never know what happens.
But in fact, when it happens on the stage, I would say so that it's not easy, but it's not difficult either. If you are awake and you are listening what happens on the stage, you can sort of be involved with the discussion, make questions, a bit challenge the players or those people who are interacting in the discussion. And so our job is to keep it interesting and alive, the discussion.
Can you tell a bit about the program of the track?
Yes. First of all, last year when we had the first time the fintech track in Arctic15, it was mainly the bankers, the big banks and wealth management company talking and actually having the driver's seat. But this year, I think the time has changed and it's going towards the fintech startups. And it means in practice that actually the word is given this year to the fintechs. And also investors, VCs, industry experts who actually have a saying about the collaboration within the financial ecosystem.
That's good to understand that when you are talking and thinking about the fintech as a concept, it has been so that in the few years ago it was a sort of a division, banks against fintechs and fintechs killing banks. But if we look 1 or 2 years back, the development has gone to that direction that it's more like cooperation model. And so all the players are stronger together instead of fighting against each other.
So do I get it right that you believe that there is a place for startups within a fintech sphere?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. And more we see actually joint fintech collaboration also because typically if we think big players, the traditional players like banks and insurance companies and pension companies,